Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to one of my YouTube tutorials. So today we're going to be looking at making this little Valentine's heart. So this heart could be used as a little motif, as you could pop this onto a chain, you could pop it onto a key ring. I just thought it was kind of cute, and it's learning how to make a simple heart shape and how to wrap gemstones onto the outside of it. So for that we are going to be using some 0.9mm wire, which is 19 gauge in American terms, and we are going to be using a 0.4mm wire, which is 26 gauge in American terms. So, and I will pop the measurements and everything below for you too. So we're going to be using around about 20 centimeters, probably not quite 20 centimeters, but go with 20 centimeters. I always go with a little bit more, and then if you need to make an adjustment, you've got enough. And you need about 1 meter of your 0.4, and I've pre-threaded. I used 25 in the original. I've pre-threaded about 30 on there just in case my size differs a little bit. Pre-threaded onto there. These are 3mm microfaceted gemstones. These are Pink Tourmaline. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start making this little heart motif. So I'm just going to move a few things out of the way, and we're just going to be working with our piece of wire to start with. So the tools that we're going to be using, we're going to be using our flush cutters, we're going to be using some 6-step bail making pliers, but if you haven't got bail making pliers like this, I'll just grab this. So this is just a normal pen. So, and we'll be looking at using kind of the chunkiest one there. So it's about 10 mil. So just a kind of a pen size. It doesn't have to be exact. And we'll also be using some chain nose pliers and some round nose pliers. So just moving a few of those out of the way just for a second. And we're going to look at using, now if you haven't got these, you can use your round nose pliers at this point, but I'm going to use these because I have them. And what we want to do is we want to put a little loop right in the middle there. So we're going to pop in our bail making pliers. I'm going to be using the smallest one on here. So this is this one here. So the smallest one, and I want to pop it in the center around about and push up to each side so that they cross over like so. You can see that there, and then we can just push that together to create a really nice small loop. Okay, so we just created a really small loop in the bottom of our wire. So this is going to be the bottom of our little heart shape. Okay, so we don't want it too big, just nice and small. And then this is going to be the sides of our heart coming up. Okay, so we want them to be in that nice V shape like so. So now we're going to be looking at using the largest part of our bail making pliers, the 10mm part. So we want the 10mm part to be on the inside, so on the inside of our design. So this is actually going to look a lot smaller than it actually is, because obviously once we add the gemstones it becomes a lot bigger. So we're going to go around about 1 centimetre from the inside here to around about the outside of the bail making pliers here. So this is the distance that we want here, about 1 centimetre. I'm just going to bring my arm over and bring that around and create one side of my loop like so. There we go. And then we're going to do the same at the opposite side. So using the same side of the pliers, so we're using that larger side, and we're just going to line this up around about there. Don't worry, because we can make little adjustments if we do get this slightly off. We're going to bring that all the way around and down to this side like so. So now I'm just going to take a look at that. Now this has actually gone okay, so I don't need to make much adjustment, but if I do need to, I can just put my pliers in. I could bring that open a little bit more if I wanted to. I can pop my pliers in, open that side, bring that across. So just using those pliers and using those as your mandrel each time you need to make an adjustment, and then you'll keep your loops the same size, and you can kind of change the height a little bit each side. So what we're looking for is the distance here. So where this cross is here, the distance here and this side to be around about the same, because we want it to be a nice symmetrical heart. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how that's sitting. So just take a look at it. I just tend to do things by eye. You can measure things if you want to, that is fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flush cutters and we're going to take this quite a short cut. So we're looking at the very edge of our little heart design, and we're going to go probably about 3 or 4 millimeters away from the edge, not quite half a centimetre, so around about there. Okay, and then we're going to do the same at this side. So holding everything together, I'm supporting everything here so I know nothing's moving, and I can take a little cut at that side too. Now this is probably the fiddliest part of it because we don't want to alter the size. So we want to take our chain nose pliers. We want to create a little bend. So what I'm doing is I'm supporting the whole design with my fingers underneath here. And I'm just going to hold this in place because I don't want this size of this loop to move at all. I'm just going to start bending that back. I'm not bending it all the way back. I've just popped that little bend in. I'm going to take the opposite side. So I want this all to line up nicely. And I'm just going to grab the very end, supporting everything again, and bend that back. And we're just going to do that side by side very slowly. Okay, so we can turn it around to the opposite side, and we can turn that back a little bit and grab this side, turn it back a little bit. It's not all the way yet. You can see it's not all the way yet, but I'm just eyeballing it, checking, making sure I'm happy with it. And then I can just eventually, I can use the very technical term, the squish. So we're just squishing that back over. That one needs to come over a little bit more. And we're just squishing that over. Okay, it's not fully done yet, but I'm getting happy with that. Don't worry that they've sprung apart because we're going to bind them those together. But we want that to kind of just loop all the way around that 0.9mm wire there. Okay, so I'm happy with that. It's not scratchy on the back or anything. So I've got the beginnings of my heart. So now we need to bind this together in the middle and then start wrapping all those gemstones all the way around the edge. So to do that, I have pre-threaded my my gemstones already. I've got about 30 on there. Probably not going to use all those, but that doesn't matter. And just at either end, just for ease, I've just popped a little loop on each end just to make sure they don't fall off. So I can snip that loop off now on one end because I know I don't need that one. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping on my left side. So I want to be wrapping on the inside of my left loop here. So I'm going to pop in to the hole here, and I'm just going to hold on, and I'm just going to pop a couple of wraps around that side. So, and I'm going to have to push through. So I'm going to push through my wire, and then this is going to come all the way through. So, and then your gemstones are going to follow through there. Okay, and we're just going to pop a couple of wraps in. So because we've got it open, we can just come down the middle there. We've got one nice tight wrap in there, and I'm just going to push my wire through. You could go right to the end and find the end and then poke it through, but I find what happens is you tend to end up work hardening your wire because you're actually running your hands down the wire to find the end. So try to push it through wherever you can. So I've just got 2 wraps on the inside of this little loop here, and what I want to do now is bind these together. So I need to push up, so my wire's coming from the back, and I'm going to push up through the inside of the opposite loop. So you're right, so pushing through the opposite side. So we're wrapping these together, and we want 2 or 3 wraps just to make it nice and neat. I tend to go with odd numbers just because it looks nicer, I think. So big starter wraps, ending wraps, 2 wraps just to finish off. But if you're doing something that's actually going to add a little bit of detail like this, I tend to go with an odd number because it gives you a focal, a kind of centre to it. So you can see this wire is becoming a little bit messy there. So I'm just going to straighten it out a little bit. I don't want to work hard on it too much. I'm just going to smooth that out. So I've got 2 wraps in there, and I'm going to push this side through. And try not to get it tangled or anything. Just be very careful when you are doing this type of wrapping, because any kinks in your wire, it does make it hard for the beads to flow along the wire also. Okay, so we've got our 2 little wraps here right at the very beginning. Then we've got 3 wraps together. You can use your pliers just to squish them together really nicely. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start wrapping on the right side. So we're going to wrap the right side all the way down to the bottom and then around and to the top again. So we're going to put our wires coming underneath. We're going to push up through that loop once again, just like we have just been doing. And we're going to pop a single wrap because we don't want to be wrapping too close into the kind of this cleft of the heart. So we're just going to pop a single wrap in there. Now this first one is actually going to be the one that sits right in the center there. So it's going to be this one here that sits right in that center there. So we only want one wrap in there just so that we're in position and we're not too close. And then we can drop a gemstone down. So we're just letting a gemstone drop down, and you can see it just naturally wants to sit in that little crevice there. So my wire's coming from the front over gemstone, and then I'm going to take my wire around the back and up through. Like so, and then push around and a whole wrap around that frame again. So we've got 2 wraps on that frame and we're in position there. So that's our first gemstone in, and you can see it's sat really nicely in position in that middle. And then we're just going to continue adding gemstones just as so. So let the gemstone drop down. My wire's coming over the front there. Push my gemstone right up, and then I can come up, pushing that loop through, and then a wrapping around once, twice. Now don't worry if you've ended up wrapping the opposite way, it still works, it's absolutely fine. It still works as long as you're wrapping and you've got 2 wraps on each. So you can see the difference. So this is one side where you can see this is the side that I'm wrapping the way that I'm wrapping now. On the opposite side, you get all those little pieces of wire, which is still really, really pretty. So don't worry if you've ended up and you're thinking, oh, my wire's the wrong way around. It's absolutely fine. It still works out perfectly both ways. So again, drop a gemstone down. Just make sure they're sat really nice and close together. We want our work to look as nice and neat as possible. And pulling this through. So I'm just going to continue wrapping these on until I get to here, and I'll show you how to skip over that little piece there. So I've wrapped all the way around and I've got down to this little piece here, and I've just popped, I've got a single wrap in there, so I'm just going to make sure I've finished that on 2, just to make sure it's going to sit really nice and securely at the other side of this little piece of wire here. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to skip around and come through this bottom little diamond shape. Okay, so I've just skipped around the back, that's all. I'll show you that from the back. So my little bit of wire is going across here, just skipped around the back like so, and then I can just continue wrapping. And what we need to do is, once we've wrapped this side, we need to count how many gemstones we've got and make sure that we mirror image it. It is the exact same size, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. So obviously on this part now we're coming through the diamond rather than the loop, and it shouldn't be a problem at all to get the exact same amount, because it's nice to get that really nice mirror image, and we can just squish that up. So there's a very, very slight larger gap there, and you can see it in this one, but in the grand scheme of things it doesn't really matter because we've got that nice little piece of silver plated wire going through there as well. So I'm just going to wrap down to the bottom. So I've just got 1 wrap on there, so I need to come through there again. So let's just continue. And add another gemstone. So I think this is going to work out exactly the same as my one before. They do tend to work out the same, but I always say add a little bit of extra wire, add a little bit of few extra gemstones, just in case, because millimeters do make huge differences in jewellery making. It's the difference between another gemstone and not another gemstone when you're adding quite a few of them. So do make sure, and it's especially if you are working from the reel, it is a little bit soul destroying if you've not added enough gemstones and you need to add more. So I'm going to add that last one there at the bottom and just show you how we skip over the back as well. So I've got my last one added down at the bottom there, and I'm going to come through just as I have been doing, up the little loop, little diamond shape that we've got going on at the bottom here, making sure I've got a nice good full wrap in there, and then all I'm going to do is skip over to the opposite side. Okay, so I've skipped over to the opposite side, and I'm going to make sure I'm coming up through the loop again so that I'm going in the same direction. Okay, I've come up through the loop, skipped over the little back section there. All I've done is skip over, up through the loop, and then I can continue adding sections. Now if you were to skip over the back and not come up through the loop, you would be wrapping in the opposite direction. So you'd be wrapping with all those little silver pieces, and then it's not going to be symmetrical. So make sure you do come up through that loop, and make sure you're coming down and then up through the loop again on your next one. So I'm just going to continue wrapping all the way up to the top again, and then I will join you at the top to finish off. So I've come all the way around. I'm just about to add my last gemstone. So this does look like quite a big gap, but we have to remember that once that drops down, we'll be looking at this one as the one in the middle. So don't be tempted to squeeze an extra one in there. So I've just dropped that one down. I'm going to wrap my last one on. So, and I'm going to make sure now I've come through, I'm just going to finish on 2 really good firm wraps onto that frame. So once and twice, and push up through. Now we're going to make our cuts on this on the inside. Sort out that little tangle. There we go. So we're going to make our cuts on the inside, so we know that if somebody is wearing this as a pendant, there's nothing that's going to be able to scratch. So I know I've got 2 really good clean tight wraps in there, and I'm going to cut this towards the inside, and again I'm going to do the same with the tail wire. So I'm going to use the flush side of my pliers. So the flush side, when you look at a pair of what's called flush cutters, or even your side cutters, your more basic ones, they usually have one side that's very flat at this side, so you can see how the light kind of comes off there, and then this side dips inside. So if you can imagine, that's the shape that your wire is going to be at the very end when you cut it. So that's why we always put the flush side towards our work and then snip. And then again with this one in the center, the little tail wire that we started with, flush cutters, the flush side is closest to my work, and snip. And I'm just going to move that out of the way a second. And then I'm just going to go in with my pliers, because those ends are still free, and just make sure that those are nicely smoothed in, making sure it's a bit trickier when you've got gemstones around. So just make sure that you've given it the technical squish. And there we go. So you can have this either way. I quite like it the opposite way, with the little bits of silver showing like so. Okay, and then all I've done to finish it off is a jump ring. So I've made this jump ring myself. It is a 1.25 millimeter wire, and it is a 6 millimeter mandrel I popped through. So just consider the size that you need to create a little bail. So I'm going to have this kind of sat on a little angle, so I'm opening up my jump ring, and then you've got to put this onto one of the loops of your heart, and consider whatever chain you're going to put through there. So if you're going to put anything bigger than that through there, you'll need a slightly bigger jump ring, hence why I've not made the jump ring for you. You just need to use one that's appropriate for how you are going to hang it. So let's just take one little last look at that. So there we go, there's our little hearts, our little cute hearts, and you could even drop something off the bottom of there. It'll hang really beautifully as a pendant. I think it'd make quite a nice little bag charm. You could pop that onto the bottom of a wine glass. You could pop a wine glass charm ring on there and pop it on there. That would make a beautiful little romantic gift. But yeah, so I've really enjoyed making those. Like you can see, they're very slightly different in size, but don't worry about that. I'm actually thinking it would be quite nice to make an even smaller one and make a little cascade as a bag charm. But I will let you know how I get on with that in the comments below. So I will add all the details below of all the products that I've used today, and thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, there's lots more to come. I've got a lot in the planning at the moment and a lot going on, so hopefully I will be in touch with everybody soon. So keep an eye on my page, don't forget to subscribe and like my video, and I will see you again really soon.